But then my love for comedy was so strong. I was like, I gave my name. I'm like, okay, we'll figure it out. And then I just went up in front of like 400 people, like accountants, and like made them laugh. I'm like, okay, maybe if I can make like 400 accountants, like CPA, business people, finance people laugh. So maybe I have something.
We're here with Vikram Balaji, who's the apparently the CEO, CFO, housekeeper, and founder of Vik Comedy. So hello.
Hello.
You can see me?
Will come and say this is absolute crap. But that spreadsheet is, by the way, she used to be my boss. So given me a lot of hard time, but
I've never
she's
given
one
you
of
a hard time in my life.
She's one of the persons I can work with forever. Because sometimes we won't know if you're working or yelling at each other, but most humility. I am a very humble person. Don't laugh for that. But
how would you rate yourself right now?
Never thought of it. Like, how will I rate myself?
You have most of the roles, most of the titles in your company, which I think is probably an HR issue. But you your own finance department as well?
Yes. I'm a accountant, finance guy, so it's hard to like give that away. There are a lot of days where you want to throw a shoe or, like pull your hair out, like, that big comedy, VIK, K as in comedy. Yeah, whatever.
K as in comedy.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my name, right?
I know.
Did you think that my name was Seep?
Well, I was thinking K as in Karen. Comedy on all platforms?
Yeah, it's Vik Comedy on all platforms. TikTok, Facebook for the previous generation. I'm also in that generation, yeah.
Wait a minute.
I want to roast you in this, and like you can learn a lot from her. I'm not saying this because I'm on a podcast. I'm still going to say a lot of crappy things about her, but she's like a person who's super confident. Like you can know that, like, if I teach her how to play cricket, I'm telling you she'll be good at it. That's how she is. Like she can go figure out anything she wants in her life.
I mean that life. Like life is gonna life, and you're not always going to be able to do all of the things in which you plan. Like I was giving myself a hard time this morning because I was like, sometimes I feel like my ambition is too much because I coach all of my clients on the fact that you have to be realistic. You can't have a to-do list that matches your to-do list on your most efficient, effective day. That's your Superman day, and every day is not a Superman day. So like this morning when I booked a 6:30 a.m. workout class and at 6 a.m. I was like, what were you thinking? I really was like, sometimes your ambition can overshadow the reality of life. And that it was just a simple thing to remind me, like, look, you have to sometimes take a step back and say, is this reality? Like, are you going to feel A1 maximum every single day? Are you hopping out of the bed with the sunlight and singing with the bees and stuff? like all those things. And the answer is no. Like sometimes you are turning back over and throwing a shoe at whatever is singing and saying, shut up. So you can go back to sleep and pull in the shades. And I want to know what I can do on my maximum day, but I also want to know what is realistic, especially as I gauge myself in this evolution. So it's like the trajectory that you think sometimes is a little bit more like this, a little more of a curve to it. And that's not a bad thing. So when people think about stand-up comedians a lot, they think of like the big ones, the ones who are the most well-known, the ones who get $85 million Netflix specials and things like that. But there's a process to getting built up to that level. What does it look like when you're first starting out as a comedian, especially if you're trying to make it your sole focus for employment and all of that?
When you start off, you hardly get paid. Like, when I started off, I made $85. I've got paid like probably 1 million drink tickets, right? I mean, I don't drink a lot, but you get a lot of free food and free drinks. So that's how it starts. But then you kind of need to have that business also in your mind. Like, okay, now it's fine, but how do you start like putting yourself out there? Like, okay, there is a value associated to your jokes, value associated to what you do. And then after you start getting more and more opportunities, that's when you start figuring it out, right? For me, it was like, I didn't get a lot of opportunities in Chicago. So I used to go travel a lot. I used to spend my own gas money. I used to like, take a hit for those shows. I'll get paid only like, I don't know, like $150 for me to go there, stay would be like $300. But I want to put that investment, get my name out there. And then now when I go, I make money on those gigs. It's profitable, right? Start thinking about what will complement what you do, right? So that's why I started having merch, right? Because after the show, people are happy. They want to support you. I have a joke that I say on the t-shirt. It says least favorite kid, right? Were you the least favorite?
No, I was the most
Oh,
favorite.
no, I don't believe it at all. So how do you get a lot of followers? And how do you make sure that you convert those into ticket sales, right? So you need to make sure you're thinking about all of that. So can you start getting email list? A lot of comics do that. Like, okay, you have 50,000 followers. What they smartly do is they put up in their stories saying, hey, hit me your email. I'll tell you when I come and perform. So what they'll do is they'll send an email out when they're performing in their city. So that is easier to reach, but track the KPI, right? You know what? I spent $500 in this social media. I got ticket sales worth 1,500. Perfect. Boom, working. Now you increase the budget there, right? And find what works for you. Don't fake it, right? But it also comes with practice. Like sometimes people, when they go to a party, they're very like uncomfortable to talk to people, right? Sometimes what you can do is, I have done this. I'm like, how do you start a conversation in a party, right? That actually helps. Like they like talk about 2-3 things saying, go talk about the day. Don't ask them like, what do you do for a living? Try to do something like, funny, right? I've gone to a show, like whenever I used to go travel for my day job, I used to just show up in that comedy club, go talk to people. They say, I'm coming from India. I just want to hang out. They really want to do a spot. And then after the show, go talk to people. Just don't go do your show and go back. I don't know if that answered the question or I just went off in a different time.
It was fine. As your former boss, I'm going to need for you to make that $1 billion so that I can stop working and be an advisor. I make $100 million a year. Thank you. Just so you're aware. And I will help you with your goals still.
Quit my other jobs and just focus on comedy and be here, right? And, be an employee here.
You should. Welcome to Fyght Talk. My name is Christian Young. Welcome to Fyght Talk. My name is Christian Young, doing it for laughs. So today is going to be a very special day because we're going to be talking with a comedian. And I think that this is going to be a very interesting journey as we discuss building his craft and how he got to where he is today, what the early start looked like, and how he was able to still keep going, just knowing that it doesn't necessarily pay to be funny. And then also some of the challenges that he's experienced trying to get into clubs, trying to make sure that he consistently stays funny, and then also meeting some of the goals that he set for himself. As we go on this journey, I think it'll give great insights into some of the more creative sides of business and really what it takes to make people laugh. So today we're here with Vikram Balaji, who's the apparently the CEO, CFO, housekeeper, and founder of Vit Comedy. So hello.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm doing good.
So can you tell us a bit about your business?
Sure. First, thanks for having me. I think it's a really, really cool setup, right? Never thought I'd record a podcast in a studio apartment, but this is fun. Yeah. No, cool setup. So my business is I'm a comedian. I tell jokes for a living. That's about it. As simple as that.
Okay. So I wanted to have you on today because I think it's important for people to understand that there are a lot of non-traditional entrepreneurs. So there's a lot of different professions in which you can kind of run your own business, and your business is you. And so how did you kind of get started?
So I got started with stand-up like years back when I was in India. Growing up, I was very interested in comedy, whether it was my local language dramas or skits. So I was a big fan of comedy growing up. And then one day, in the company that I used to work for, they wanted a comedian, right? Because in India, there was no like platform to perform or have any open mics. And then I don't know, for some reason, I gave my name. And this was the guy who had like crazy stage fear. I've never performed anything. Like if there is like any place to perform, I will run. I will leave that place because I was scared of the stage. But then my love for comedy was so strong. I was like, I gave my name. I'm like, we'll figure it out. And then I just went up in front of like 400 people, like accountants, and like made them laugh. I'm like, okay, maybe if I can make like 400 accountants, like CPA, business people, finance people laugh. So maybe I have something. So then after that, I started getting into it. Like I started learning about, okay, how do you do comedy? Where can we go? And then started working with the locals there, opened up a comedy club, used to start running open mics, started building the scene. That's how I got into stand-up comedy. Yeah, and growing up, I was a big fan of Russell Peters. So he was like the first comedian I ever saw. So that's how I got into comedy.
Now, taking a step back further, I seem to recall that you initially had a comic book.
True. Oh, yeah. I'm getting old. I'm forgetting. She's reminding me now. Yeah. Actually, before I got into comedy, I also started a comic book. And I was a big fan of, still a big fan of Calvin and Hobbes, and Dilbert. I don't know if you all have read Dilbert. It's one of the most funniest comic about corporate life. And Scott Adam does a brilliant job. So I used to read a lot of comics, even Tintin, Asterix, and Obelix. So I was like, but there is no comic book on relationships. So that's how I started my, maybe I can start a comedy book. So I started, it was called as Mr. Whipped Comics. It started a Facebook page and it was like, got some 85,000 likes. But obviously I'm learning. I was pretty ignorant then. I was young. So it'll be a little sexist here and there, but I was learning, right? Jokes, like I was writing my experiences. So the whole thing is about Mr. Whipped, a guy who's been in a relationship for way too long. And then there is an alter ego, the guy who's like a player is having fun. It's about them and their relationship and all of that. So I can't draw. Like if you see my handwriting, like it's worse than a doctor's handwriting, right? In fact, a lot of people see my handwriting, they're like, you should have been a doctor, right? Either they say that because I'm Indian or because they see my handwriting. But anyway, so I started that. Whatever funny thought I had, I used to make that into the comic. I had a guy who used to help me illustrate, amazing illustrator. Then we also came up with an app for it. And then after that, I eventually figured out stand-up. And then, I'm like, oh, this is where the heart, this is where I belong. This is what is close to my heart. So I started doing stand-up and that's there.
So when people think about stand-up comedians a lot, they think of the big ones, the ones who are the most well-known, the ones who get $85 million Netflix specials and things like that. But there's a process to getting built up to that level. What does it look like when you're first starting out as a comedian, especially if you're trying to make it your sole focus for employment and all of that?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. I'm glad you asked that because not a lot of people know that, to get to that stage, you need to go through a lot in comedy, right? You don't start with 85 million or 8 million or $1 million because when you start off, you hardly get paid. When I started off, I made $85. That's how bad it was. It was, really difficult because there are a lot of comedians out there, right? So when you start off, you don't make much. So you put in you invest a lot. You make a loss, but you start investing the time. You try to figure out, you focus on your art, you focus on your craft. But at the same time, have the business in mind, right? Initially, it's more on the craft itself. Okay, how do I work on a good 5 minutes? How do I work on a good 10 minutes that is clean material? Because it's clean, you get more opportunities, right? And then after that, how do you make the 10 to a 15, right? And then you go to many open mics. You start working on that content. You start networking because networking is a big thing in comedy. You start getting your name out. Hey, this new guy is funny. He has a good 5 minutes. And then you go talk to people. You go support other people. And then they'll start putting you on their shows, right? And you won't get paid because it'll be a guest spot. You won't get paid. I've got paid probably 1 million drink tickets, right? I mean, I don't drink a lot, but you get a lot of free food and free drinks. So that's how it starts. But then you kind of need to have that business also in your mind. Okay, now it's fine, but how do you start putting yourself out there? Okay, there is a value associated to your jokes, value associated to what you do. And then after you start getting more and more opportunities, that's when you start figuring it out, right? For me, it was like, I didn't get a lot of opportunities in Chicago. So I used to go travel a lot. I used to spend my own gas money. I used to like, take a hit for those shows. I'll get paid only like, I don't know, like $150 for me to go there, stay would be like $300. But I want to put that investment, get my name out there. And then now when I go, I make money on those gigs. It's profitable, right? Still not 85 million, right? But somewhere around like 75 million, right?
Okay.
But yeah, so there is a lot of, like different levels to comedy, right? And then some comedians do a lot of corporate gigs. That pays a lot as well, but they're not well known, right? But it pays a ton, right? Some comics even charge like 15,000, 20,000 for one gig, right? Or even, $10,000, whatever, right? So yeah, there are a lot of comedians there, but a lot of other comedians are also trying to like, in this level you're trying to make. But my goal is like, I love doing this. I can do this forever. Even if I'm 85, if I can talk, I can do this. I also want to make money out of it. So have like a good plan. Like, okay, do these clubs. Can you do cruise? Cruise also pays. So you start figuring out where the money is, how you focus on it. Like, can you make money off social? Start working on those as well. That is one thing I'm trying to figure out as well. I don't know if that answered the question or I just went off in a different tangent.
It was fine. So when you kind of started out and were making was that $85 a gig or $85 a month or $85 a year?
Whole year, $85.
Okay. So when you, when I see you out doing your kind of comedic thing, it's like multiple streams of income. You have your social media that you're trying to build up, which you're doing a lot of posting. You also have your stand-up. You also have merch. What made you realize that you had to kind of pull on all the strings?
I think it all comes down to like, how do you make these gigs profitable, right? Like, okay, now you're telling jokes for a living, you're getting paid for that. But is there something else that, I don't know, for lack of a better word, byproduct, right? Can you add another stream which is complementing to what you do? Like merch is a good example. Actually, some gigs I'm able to take only because of my merch. Like in some places where I've gone, like Myrtle Beach is a good place. Like it's really nice touristy place, a lot of beaches. I've sold 80 t-shirts there, right? Mm-hmm. So, and that can cover even your flight cost or your gas money, or it can leave some in your pocket as well, right? So, you need to start thinking about what will complement what you do, right? So that's why I started having merch, right? Because after the show, people are happy. They want to support you. I have a joke that I say on the t-shirt. It says least favorite kid, right? Mm-hmm. Were you the least favorite?
No, I was the most favorite.
Oh, no, I don't believe it at all. I'm pretty sure CY was the least. No, I'm sure you're the most favorite. But yeah, I was the least favorite. So I thought it'd be funny to have that. And people don't have to know anything about the joke or anything. So I have my social handle there. So I sell that. It's a way to connect with people, to keep them, thinking about that they came to the show, and then they, give it as a good Christmas gift or a Thanksgiving gift, right? So that's what I started doing, like even in social media. Like social media, the intention for us is to put yourself out there so that you can get more followers. And it's not even enough if you get a lot of followers, because my followers can be from Timbuktu. They're not going to show up for my show unless I go there and perform, right? And also the algorithm keeps changing. It makes it more and more difficult. So how do you get a lot of followers, and how do you make sure that you convert those into ticket sales, right? Mm-hmm. So you need to make sure you're thinking about all of that. So can you start getting email list? A lot of comics do that. Like, okay, you have 50,000 followers. What they smartly do is they put up in their stories saying, hey, hit me your email. I'll tell you when I come and perform. So what they'll do is they'll send an email out when they're performing in their city. So that is easier to reach versus you being dependent on Meta or TikTok or any other social platform to like show your content to other people, right? So that also helps with coming in with other income. Like a lot of comedians have now started making more income on social media because their videos are getting popular, and they're also collaborating with a lot of different like markets. Like what is it? People want to sell products online, right? Mm-hmm. So they want content. So that is a great thing for comedians, which has opened up. Like if let's say somebody wants to push their, let's say, bald head shaver. I keep getting that. It's like, hey, are you interested in this bald head shaver? I'm like, hey, I have a little bit of hair, but like I can work on a funny content there So at the same time, I'm pushing out that product for them, collaborating with them, and then I can come up with a deal where like, okay, you make this, sell this much, I'll make 3% of that, like an influencer kind of commission, right? So those are the kind of things you can do, and these actually add up, right? So my point is like, keep thinking about what else can you do, and that complements all of this, right, naturally.
So what does your team look like? I mean, I know that you have most of the roles, most of the titles in your company, which I think is probably an HR issue. But what does your team look like? Who supports you, or what vendors do you have that do support you outside of, volunteers and other things?
Yeah, I have some friends and family that sometimes support me. I'll call them when I'm on the road. Be like, hey, can you send this email out? Hey, can you edit this post for me? So it's a lot of family, like my family really helps, and friends as well. But other than that, I have a guy who helps me create some animation videos and promos. He lives in India. He was my illustrator for that comic. So he can actually like do animation videos. He's really good at that. So I have put out some animation videos by taking his help. And then it's also working with some comics who are like your co-worker, and they can also help because they make a huge difference. In the comedy, it's all about networking, helping people. Like I have like a group of people, like not like 3-4 people. We exchange information. Like I'll be like, hey, I work this club. He's looking for a comedian. Hit him up. Here's the email, right? And sometimes people are always not sharing information. It's a very unorganized sector, but I would say those are the kind of people I take help with, like the co-workers. They'll be like, hey, this guy is looking for something here. Are you interested? So I'll tell him that works. And then I've also been using a lot of these online tools. That has changed my game, like video editing, like I said, and also adding subtitles. I used to spend 3 hours just on subtitles, but now this app does it in like 10 seconds. And I pay a subscription for that, which is totally worth it. So I'm relying more on technology to do it. As I start scaling up, I think I'll have a team to like focus on social media, promo, and then I can spend more time on the content, whether it's acting or comedy.
Are you your own finance department as well?
Yes. I'm a accountant, finance guy, so it's hard to like give that away, but yeah, it comes naturally, so I do it. In my side, other than obviously filing for taxes, making sure I'm declaring every income, whether it's cash or credit, I'm declaring all of that. I don't know if IRS is watching it, but I want to be clear. I declare all of it. So I keep track of it. I have a fancy spreadsheet, which I'm sure you will come and say this is absolute crap. But that spreadsheet is, by the way, she used to be my boss. So she's given me a lot of hard time, but
I've never
she's
given
one
you
of
a hard time in my life.
She's one of the persons I can work with forever. Because sometimes we won't know if you're working or yelling at each other, but like you can learn a lot from her. I'm not saying this because I'm on a podcast. I'm still going to say a lot of crappy things about her, but she's like a person who's super confident. Like you can know that, like if I teach her how to play cricket, I'm telling you she'll be good at it. That's how she is. Like she can go figure out anything she wants in her life. But yeah, so coming back to that spreadsheet. And then the other thing is like, not a small thing, like when I used to go start selling my merch, some people are like, hey, can I use a credit card? I don't have cash. I'm like, oh, I don't have. I used to miss out on sales. Then I'm like, hey, just figure out. Now I just have that mobile app thing, Pay Anywhere app, right? Something like, what is that? There are so many apps now, right?
Stripe.
Yeah. So now they just show my credit card and that's it, right? And then it goes in. So a lot of people use that, like, sell through that. And then obviously I report IRS and then I track all of that and report it. But it just, those small things is making it easier for small business. Can you imagine doing this 20 years back where you're like,
no, you have to take that little thing that they used to have back in the day that like you put the paper in and you have to take an imprint of the card and then you like put that little handle over and swipe it over.
Yeah, comes geek. Oh, no, we're out of paper or something. It keeps saying, right? Yeah. So that was changed the game. Like it makes it so easy. Yeah. So that also I'm doing as part of the finance side.
So one of the things that I talk about with my clients is paying yourself as an entrepreneur. Do you get paid?
I do. Okay. Yeah. So for me, I'm I think I allocate a salary or a income to me. Everything comes to me, obviously, because I'm more or less the sole proprietor. But I think it's important, like allocate the time you're spending, and then allocate saying this is the salary. And also sometimes if you're using your friends' family, pay them as well because they're giving you a service. And if it's a genuine expenses, you can write it off as well, right? So I think you should do that. Yeah, it's a very good point. A lot of people don't do that.
No, it's sometimes it can be difficult because you don't necessarily you haven't figured out how to cover all of your expenses and also pay yourself. And speaking of that, do you have a budget?
Budget? Yes, I do. So I have like budgets set for like how much I'm going to do in social media, how much I'm going to do in like my promos, free things that I'm going to give, like business cards. I'm just giving an example like that. How much I need to invest in my camera, how much I need to invest in these, shirts and all of that. So I do work with a budget, and nothing like formally saying here, but it's a lot in my head, right? Because being a finance guy and the scale where I'm at, it helps. But I like to the more I start scaling up, I'm like kind of person, doesn't come out like that, but start like putting like pen to paper and keep tracking against that. I think it'll really help because sometimes like you go out and you go to a fancy new place, you want to go out, you want to go to a museum, you want to go partying, you start spending a lot. Be like, okay, you know what? When I travel, I need to like have a fixed expense for food, fixed expense for fun, right? I think that helps keeping you in check and also keeps your health also in check. You don't go out clubbing at 4 a.m. and come back and do a show next day.
So budgets are helpful, but how difficult or easy is it to stick to your budget, especially when you get kind of like in a zone?
Yeah, you can get carried away, right? Sometimes in the past, the way I've got carried away was, okay, I'm not seeing the results. Let's put in more money, right? Good example is social media. I was pumping in more and more money because I felt like, oh, that could convert. I could become viral overnight, right? So, or I could get more ticket sales. So I started pumping in more and more money. Then I started figuring out there is a reason why budgets exist, right? Because, you need to figure out where do you stop, right? Where do you allocate the funds in different ways? Take a step back and see, is it actually working? Right? There is a reason why budget is there because you want to know this is what the value is for this stream, right? For social media promo, this is what you need to spend that X amount. Beyond that, if you're just going to keep blindly spending and if you're not seeing the results, it's not going to work. If you want to see the results, then see how you can increase your budget. But also the other important thing is where is that going to come from? Is that going to come from your investment or is that going to come from the income that you're going to make? If it's going to come from the investment you're going to make, then it's slightly easier. Or is it going to come from the capital that you've invested? So I think that's where you need to find the right balance. If you're making a lot of money, the income is coming, you're profitable, then I would say reinvest. Have flexibility in your budget. If you see that work stream is working, seeing the results, but track the KPI, right? You know what? I spent $500 in this social media. I got ticket sales worth $1,500. Perfect. Boom, working. Now you increase the budget there, right? So that's how I work on it.
When you were talking earlier, before we started, you talked about the importance of networking. Can you talk a little bit about that and what is your networking style? Because we've talked a bit on the show about, like I've talked about, you want to make sure that you're like aligning with people with common ground. And usually you'll start off in a large group and it's the people who you want to still talk to and the people who want to still talk to you that you make meaningful connections with. But everyone does it differently. Can you talk about your networking style?
Sure. And I have corporate experience for like more than 12 years. And I also have comedy that I've been doing for almost 10 years now. And I've realized that anything you do, networking is like non-negotiable, right? Or at least like 99% of what you do, right? Maybe there could be some exceptions that, I don't know, my mind is now trying to think of those exceptions. But I think networking is non-negotiable, right? I think you need to figure out what is working for you. Like, how can you network? Don't try to be that person and don't try to like copy the person because each one will have a different personality. Someone would be an extrovert, someone would be an introvert. but try to figure out what makes sense for you, right? Because for me, it's like talking about food, talking about travel. So I try to find like what topics I can connect with, spend the time. And I also try to like work on who are the people like I enjoy networking with, and it'll also help, right? And I also feel like you should not always go in with the networking to say, what is going to come out of it? I'm not going to get anything out of it. Have a little bit of, like an open mind. Not everything is so transactional. Not everything is like business. Not everything is like, oh, that person is not at that level, so I'm not going to go network. What am I going to get out of it? You would be like, that's the wrong attitude to have. I would say network with everyone and anyone, but be a little mindful, right? I'm not saying like go network with some random people in some random industry that has no connection with you, but be a little open and find what works for you. Don't fake it, right? But it also comes with practice. Like sometimes people, when they go to a party, they're very like uncomfortable to talk to people, right? Sometimes what you can do is, I've done this. I'm like, how do you start a conversation in a party, right? That actually helps. Like they like talk about 2-3 things, saying, go talk about the day. Don't ask them like, what do you do for a living? Try to do something like, funny, right? Which sometimes I try to do, and most of the time the jokes won't work. But, you can make a joke about the joke not working, right? And this way, like, this is why I'm not the person like starting the conversation. So, so find your style, practice. Don't be afraid to ask help and go online and see. Nobody is born and as an extrovert, right? Maybe some people are, but you can develop the networking skills. And you can even like work on it by sending emails. Like after you meet a person, go add them on LinkedIn, send them an email, right? Be like, connect with them on phone. You can do it different ways that you're comfortable with. It could be a simple dinner. Just keep practicing it, I would say.
So when you talked about your comedy career before, you talked about the fact that you've toured all over. How does that work? Now, I know being in Chicago now, you talked about traveling around because, the Chicago environment for comedy is a little bit different. How do you break into clubs outside of the country?
Sure. It goes back to networking and then discipline, both, and also your interest. So the way it worked for me was, whether it was outside of Chicago or outside of the US, contacts helped. Like I've gone and met people. I've gone to a show. Like whenever I used to go travel for my day job, I used to just show up in that comedy club, go talk to people. They say, I'm coming from India. I just want to hang out. They really want to do a spot. And then after the show, go talk to people. Just don't go do your show and go back home. And I am guilty for this. Sometimes I do it, right? Sometimes you just go to office, you go do your job and come back. Sometimes you want to do that. I totally get it. You don't want to talk to people because people won't let you do the work, right? But sometimes it's very important to go and do your work, but also spend that time, talk to people, build the connections, and figure out where you will get the connections. Like I did a comedy festival called World Series of Comedy Festival. And the name itself is World Series, but they do shows in US. But I got to meet different comics from different states. So that comic will be, I'm running a show, you want to do this, right? And then for me, internationally, what helped was, like I did a small show there like 7 years back. So then he knew somebody who could put me on. That person moved from Thailand to Indonesia. So that person was like, hey, I'm running a show here. You want to like perform? So I think it's just building the network and also reaching out to people, talking to people. A lot of people will reach out to a person once and be like, that person didn't respond. I'm now going to reach back. I'm not saying don't go stalk that person. Like find that right balance. Like don't go outside their home like, hey, I'm trying to get booked. What happened, right? But like follow up, periodically. Sometimes I have this monthly cadence of like, hey, what's up? Just checking in. So those networking helped. Figuring out which places open up that opportunity network helped. And whenever I go on a vacation, I always hit up like, okay, 3 months before, like, hey, I'm coming there. Can I do a show? I guess that also helps. And sending them like, what are you worth? Like sending a good social package. I think this is something all small business owners should have. Like when I send an email, I have a clear, what is my bio? What have I done? Why should you book me? Right? So if you're a small business owner, how can you like give like a 3-slider or a 1-slider that says these are all your awesome things, and people can look at it and be like, okay, this person is awesome. This person is selling this awesome service. This person is selling this awesome product. And they can, by looking at that email or by having that elevator 30-second pitch, they can see it all in that PowerPoint, right?
So when you talk about scaling your business, how big do you want to be?
I don't have a number in mind yet, which I don't know if it's good or bad, because I'm also in all this whole being mindful and being, enjoying the journey more. I don't have like a fixed number, or I'm not doing this because I want to be famous or something. I'm doing this because I love it. And the reason I want to make money out of it is because I can, focus more on it, right? And just keep doing what I love, keep doing other things I love as well. So I don't have a number, but I have some qualitative goals. Like, I want to write a TV show. I want to write a book. I want to like come up with at least 5 stand-up specials. Every year, I want to come up with 25 minutes of new content, right? So I have these kind of specific goals, which are quantifiable as well. This is my corporate hat coming out. My boss coming in saying, these goals are too vague. CY will come and say, we call her CY. She'll be like, oh, these goals are too vague. What is this? How can I measure against these? So coming up with those measurable stuff as well is what I have. But I don't have a 85 million in mind or something.
I feel like you're like someone's work counselor, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years of your life, and they just never let it go. I did not torture you. I did not torture you.
I will never let it go. Even when I'm 75, I'll be like, oh, she made me do this.
It's how it works. And you are a better person for it. Look at me.
I do. I appreciate it. Really enjoyed all that.
So I think that when you kind of look at your business overall and you kind of step back and really focus in on, what it looks like, how it's growing, how would you rate yourself right now?
Never thought of it. Like, how will I rate myself? Putting me in a spot here, CY.
I know,
I
right?
love doing that.
It
Right? Nothing has changed.
It's a
great question, though. And I guess it kind of helps, right? Like, to see where you are at. I would probably say 7.5.
Okay.
Out of 10, not 100.
Okay.
Just make it clear.
I was just checking.
Yeah. Because I know areas that I'm still not doing enough, right? And that's being very self-critical of what I do. Like, I want to write every day because I'm not a Dave Chappelle. I'm not one of those Richard Pryor or, Jerry Seinfeld, where I'm like, that's a joke, right? Actually, Seinfeld used to write a lot. So I want to be more disciplined. I want to write every day. Like, I read books to keep my thoughts, but I don't do it every day, right? Some excuse or the other I have. So I want to keep changing that, because a lot of people think that writing jokes is just like you driving and thinking of something. That happens. But what helps is getting into that process. Like, every day you get up, read the news or read a book. That's what helps me. Like, I'll read, and then that one word will then trigger and get an idea for the joke. So for me, it's like, how do I keep doing that? So that's why the 2.5 that I'm not giving myself, I need to get better at. And then also, I feel like sometimes I'm getting comfortable with what I do. The same person 4 years back used to do 5 open mics in one day. I'll come back from my day job at 6 p.m. I'll go to one open mic, give my name. From there, I will drive to the other end of the city, perform in another club, come back to the place where I gave my name, perform there, go to another club, perform there, eat in the car, not while driving, don't do that. Then go to another open mic. And I've done like 5 open mics in one night. Because I wanted people to know, I wanted people to book me. But now when people have started booking me, I'm like, hey, am I getting a little comfortable? Like, sometimes when I don't have shows, I'm like, okay, let me take like a step back. I think it's finding the right balance, but sometimes I feel like I'm getting into a comfort zone. Sometimes I think like, should I move to New York? Where it's the hub of comedy, like the place, or should I move somewhere else? Or what should I do? Like, should I do something else? So that's where I'm the 2.5 is what I'm not giving. Wait, why did you ask that question? I'm curious. Like,
I asked that question because I think that when I think that it's always good as an entrepreneur to step back and take a look at your business holistically. And it's not always about, am I doing a good enough job? Because I think that all of us would sit and say, I could do this better. I could do that better. This could be, better overall. But I think that it's not necessarily about that. You have to look at your business like you should look at relationships. And relationships should not be about what I don't want, because that's easy. It should be about what I do want. This is what I want. This is what I want it to be. So when you step back and kind of rate your business and look at it, and it's like, is it giving me everything that I want at this point? Not looking in the future, not looking in the past. Right now, if I look at my business, is it where I want it to be? And if it's not, then, are there things that I need to start enacting, or are there things that I need to step back and actually think about in a more realistic way? So I think that, by putting yourself consciously at the big picture level, you can sometimes really understand if you are still in the space that's going to get you to your goals, or if you need to potentially pivot, because businesses evolve. That is the natural cycle of business. And you have to be able to recognize where you are in that evolution at any point in time. And if the way you're evolving is moving towards your goal, or if it's moving you away from your goal.
Got it. No, I think you beautifully put it by saying, take a step back and evaluate where your business is at. And I think some areas I'm not where I want it to be, and I know what I need to do. The other aspect is the things that I can't control, right? Like there's only so much you can do. And whether it's comedy or a small business, there are certain things that are outside your control.
Right.
So you try to find that, saying, okay, this I couldn't do because it was outside my control. I couldn't get this. But also be pretty honest to yourself and say, hey, this you clearly didn't put enough. Like I know that some of the areas I just didn't do enough because either I was a bit distracted or I got, started focusing on something else. Mm-hmm. But I think there are some areas that I need to get better. Like from a business side, like how can I get into more gigs that are, like private gigs, like, corporate gigs. That's one good example where I'm not where I need to be, right? So those are, but overall, I think I can get there. It's not like I need to stop doing comedy. It's like here, it's like very passionate about what you do.
Yeah.
So it's all the more difficult because to your point, you can just keep doing it. And if it's forever not profitable, it's not going to make sense. But it's nice to just take a step back and say, okay, these are things that worked. I got here, but these are things that didn't work. And then start focusing on that and start figuring out what else can I do or what more should I do. Yeah.
But I think it's also the concept of understanding that life is going to life, and you're not always going to be able to do all of the things in which you plan. Like I was giving myself a hard time this morning because I was like, sometimes I feel like my ambition is too much because I coach all of my clients on the fact that you have to be realistic. You can't have a to-do list that matches your to-do list on your most efficient, effective day. That's your Superman day, and every day is not a Superman day. So like this morning when I booked a 6:30 a.m. workout class and at 6 a.m. I was like, what were you thinking? I really was like, sometimes your ambition can overshadow the reality of life. And that it was just a simple thing to remind me, like, look, you have to sometimes take a step back and say, is this reality? Like, are you going to feel A1 maximum every single day? Are you hopping out of the bed with the sunlight and singing with the bees and stuff? all those things. And the answer is no. Like sometimes you are turning back over and throwing a shoe at whatever is singing and saying, shut up. So you can go back to sleep and pull in the shades and trying to find an eye mask from a old airline flight. Like, all these things can happen on this day, and the next day you can be like, my energy's on 12. Like my team will tell you, some days I'm like, let's do everything. And then other days they're like, we can't find you. It's really just so, but I mean, those are, I think when you really are assessing your business, those are the types of things that you have to take into account. Like, I want to know what I can do on my maximum day, but I also want to know what is realistic especially as I gauge myself in this evolution. So it's like the trajectory that you think sometimes is a little bit more like this, a little more of a curve to it. And that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's just a thing.
True. I think it's finding that balance, right? Not be too extreme and say, oh, yeah, I've accomplished a lot. And if you have, it's great, right? But you know, right? Or go the other extreme where you said, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, but I haven't done anything. Is that reasonable, practical? That's what you need to like think about. I think so. 2 years back, I would have given myself a 2.5. But now I'm starting to like take a step back and actually be, I say this with utmost humility. I am a very humble person. Don't laugh for that. But sometimes I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm not from here. I started comedy. I've been doing comedy here for only 6-7 years. I'm coming from a different place, but I've started headlining way quicker. I've opened for Russell Peters in front of like 4,000 people. I performed in international places. I didn't think about all this. Then I'm like, okay, you know what? Think about all that and also be content with what you have. Like being content is not something that people are always doing. And don't think that I'm not saying you should not be ambitious, but also it's like having some, pride in what you did. Recognize that, because that'll help you, give you the fuel to like push you to do more things. Because as you keep doing this, there are a lot of days where you want to throw a shoe or, like pull your hair out, like, that,
You've had all those days.
I know, gone all those days, right? But it's like, acknowledge what you've done, but also acknowledge what you're not doing. So it's finding that balance and be like honest with what you did. Yep.
So you don't have fear of contentment, because I think that that's a common thing in entrepreneurs, is that they feel like if I get content, then I'll stop.
I'm going to give an unpopular opinion, or I don't know if it's unpopular. I think there is nothing wrong in being content. If you feel that this is what you want to get at and you got that, and that's giving you happiness, that's perfectly fine. Because I've been asking the question last 3 years, saying, why are we all here? And I'm like, to be happy. Maybe you might have a different answer. Tom, Joy, and Brinda might have a different answer. But for me, it's like, I want to be happy. And I also see other people, like if they're happy with what they're doing, who am I to say they need to be ambitious? Who am I to say like they need to go open up $1 million? For someone, their ambition could be just helping others, and that's what gives them happiness. As long as you're happy with what you do, I think it's fine. And some people are like, no, you should have an ambition. You should wake up like running at 100 miles. If you want to do that, that's great. But don't do something that you don't want to do. Don't say that your small business needs to hit $1 billion if you're happy with and content with $100 million. That's my take. So people could have a different opinion, but it's also trying to find that being content, like which stage of your life you're at, right? When I was young, I used to always ask my dad, I'm like, Pa, how come you're not pushing yourself? How come you're not taking new clients? He was a private accountant, had a practice, right? Like a CPA. Like, I'm like, Pa, why not? Like, I'm happy with what I do. Now I get it. I'm like, now I'm like, okay, it makes sense. But as much as I say this, I'm like, oh, I need to get a show there. I know I'm also doing that, but I've started to be more like real content with what I'm getting at as well. So I feel like if you're content with what you have, that's great. I think it's a difficult thing.
Well, as your former boss, I'm going to need for you to make that $1 billion so that I can stop working and be an advisor. I make $100 million a year. Thank you. Just so you're aware. And I will help you with your goals still.
That is awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. See, ambition all over.
Maybe I should quit my other jobs and just focus on comedy and be here, right? And be an employee here.
You should. You should. It would be good for you. But while you work on that goal, can you tell everyone what your socials are so they know where to find you?
Oh, sure. It's Vic Comedy, VIK, K as in comedy. Yeah, whatever.
K as in comedy.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my name, right?
I know.
Did you think that my name was C?
Well, I was thinking K as in Karen.
Oh yeah, K as in Karen as well. That's a much better example. And I love Karens, by the way. Yeah, I wish the Karen, like I have a Karen in my neighborhood. Every time I walk in, she's like, who are you? Show me your ID. Like they do a much better job than the cops. Like anybody comes in, they have to go through the Karen. So I think every neighborhood Karen is important, right? So,
So is that Vic Comedy on all platforms?
yeah, it's Vic Comedy on all platforms. TikTok, Facebook for the previous generation. I'm also in that generation, yeah.
Like, wait a minute.
I want to roast you in this, and I've missed doing that, so I'm glad I said that. Tom, for you, TikTok, and for others, I'm also on OnlyFans, Vic Comedy.
I would not be surprised. Thank you for joining us today. I appreciate you showing up, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you so much for having me. I say this from the bottom of my heart. What you guys are doing as, women entrepreneurs and like what you've put together in the last few years, this is amazing to see. So keep doing what you do. I hope this becomes like a $10 billion business, right? So the next time I come, it's like a 5-bedroom apartment and not a studio apartment.
Right? You're just trying to get that corporate gig.